Welcome to another episode of Brand Chops, where we're chopping up brands to see what they're made of. My name is Zack Lemear.
And I'm Chris Duhaime, and today we're going to be talking about branding and human resources and how building a culture and positive ripple effect within your business. And today's guest is Rachel Platt of Plattinum Consulting. She specializes in helping organizations and individuals achieve lasting success through strategic human resource leadership. Thanks so much for joining us, Rachel.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're just going to jump right in so we can give the most value to our listeners. So how does having clear core values help small businesses create a strong internal culture that motivates and retains employees?
This is such a critical part of a small, or frankly, any size business. It is really important to understand that your core values, these are just 3 to 7, maybe at most, guiding principles that define your unique culture. They help to attract like-minded people to your organization. And at the same time, they help to dissuade folks from joining or put an uncomfortable spotlight on existing employees whose values just don't align with the organization. You need to have the right people in the right seats in order for your business to be successful. And if someone isn't the right fit, even if they have talent, but they're not the right cultural fit, leadership really needs to make a decision about their continued employment. So these core values, it helps to create that strong internal culture by continuing to communicate these core values, to acknowledge and reward people based upon these core values, to make sure that they're present in your everyday operations. It's not just the results that someone delivers, but it is how they deliver them. And that culture and that environment make the right people that are the right fit feel like this is the place for me. And this is where I want to put my time, my energy, and my effort to make my own career and this organization wildly successful.
Obviously, you've dealt with this a lot. Do you have any examples of some companies that you've worked with that maybe have done this right? And how other small businesses can emulate that?
There is a client that I have worked with that really does an incredible job every year of taking the time to recognize folks at all levels, not just their top salespeople, not just their top client service people, but the people who perform and demonstrate their values internally. It's like they have an Oscar-worthy production to highlight the people who really demonstrate the integrity, who demonstrate the work ethic, who demonstrate the technical knowledge. And clients have gotten crazy creative in building the names of their programs, coming up with magic branding around what they are calling their core values, and they really go all in. Their swag has to do with it, the things on their walls. It is just so a part of their internal employee brand that it creates pride unto itself, individual and organizational pride. And again, that's what attracts people and that's what retains people in organizations.
Those are really good points. And I know that you also just mentioned it helps you when you're clear in your core values and they're truly unflappable. They have to be black and white, and they got to be immutable laws that you can hire or fire against, because it really helps you in a lot of different things. With culture especially, it's not just who you want to attract, but who you're comfortable with repelling. And not everybody is the right fit. And that same thing happens with branding in your business with the clients that you want to get. They're not all the right fit. And if they're in alignment with these core values and this mission and vision, then it's going to be a great relationship. If not, it's probably not worth it. And it's not anything against any one person. It's just sometimes you got to find your tribe. And when you find your tribe, and to another point, with the culture, there's always that quote that people don't leave businesses, or they don't leave jobs, they leave poor leadership, they leave toxic culture. And especially in this generation where these young people are not motivated as much by water slides and napping pods and Google bonuses. Like they want something that they can believe in, that they can share the same. Yeah. And it's one of the, I think it's one of the best traits of this new generation.
Yeah, I agree. And look, people also don't want to talk about the fact that if you have someone that is not aligned with your culture, the staff sitting around them, they know it. And they're wondering, why is our leadership allowing this? And calls into question, why is this acceptable? Does nobody else see this? Are they not paying attention? Or are these actually not our values and we don't care as long as you can produce X, Y, or Z? And so you've got to walk the walk and talk the talk as you go, as it comes to these core values. And it aligns so importantly, and you said this, Zack, with your branding, the same thing that happens with your customers or your clients. Not everyone out there is for you, and not every employee is for you either. It just makes for a better relationship, more creativity, more success, frankly, more fun if people are aligned. It has to flow through because those same employees are the ones who are on the front line with your clients. If they don't believe that leadership and other core members of the team are aligned in their values and what's important and the how we do business, then it's really tough to sell that to clients.
Out of curiosity, how did you get down this path? Because I feel like your niche is very focused on this, which is something that I don't see a lot with HR professionals. Can you just, how did you get here? How did you get to this point?
It's a great question. I'm not sure that I have a real answer for you other than to say, a lot of people early on, I had a boss who said that HR can be very black and white, but Rachel, you live in the gray. And I think that that's actually true. I care about what makes people tick. I care about what motivates people to do more than just the bare minimum to get by. So employee engagement and culture, and personal growth and development opportunities, they all kind of come together around core values and mission and vision and feeling like you have a purpose. So to me, it's what I'm interested in when I was an employee. And I have found that it resonates with a lot of people. And again, back to the same point, the people that and the organizations that it doesn't resonate with, those aren't my people. And that's fine. There's lots of different ways to be successful. I want to surround people who have similar values as I do. And that has made me successful. And I think it's a good solution for me and for other employees.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great direction
with it. And I'm going to gush for a second, and I do this too often. But here's the thing, and you know exactly what I'm going to say, Chris. He knows it because it's about Chris. And so we have an amazing culture at Pivot, right? And I take zero credit for it because I didn't build it. I came in and I merged my company into it because it aligned with my values also, right? But also my job is to really just not break it because they found some great, fantastic people that if you're looking at Traction or EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system, they say that they've got the right employees for the right seat. They have to get it, want it, and there it is. They get it, want it, and have the capacity for it. And almost every day, one of our employees will share without provocation how they get it, they want it, and they have the capacity for it. They are just so grateful for being here. They love the culture. They support. They love working here. They feel fulfilled. And even before we were getting a lot of that feedback, one of my goals when I came in here was to be one of the best places to work in New Hampshire year after year, because I know that whatever else we want to do, it's contingent on our people. So if we fix people first, the rest of it will fall into place. Like you see those things where people put the rocks in first and then the stones and then the sand and then the water. You know, the rocks is the people, right? And And they've done such a great job of building and maintaining this culture. And Jenna, our HR operations, just general awesome person, she does an unbelievable job as well, maintaining that culture and continuing to build it. When you're on a team meeting and you hear someone say, I feel so fulfilled here, I'm so grateful for this, that echoes through everyone else. Like you can feel it, and it builds a culture without you even knowing it. When other people say it, and we say this, I was just saying this on another podcast we just made about how marketing isn't about talking about yourself, it's about getting other people to talk about you. We could talk about our culture all day long, but it's until other people start talking about how it impacts them and their daily life, and how they like the flexibility, the autonomy, the support, the whatever. We have somebody who just came in who works primarily in Connecticut, and we have a team day. We have team days every month and team lunches, and she came all the way from Connecticut just to hang out with us. Honestly, that speaks volumes as to the culture that they have built.
Yes.
And I've never built a culture that strong. Again, I'm just saying, I'm just trying not to break it and to continue making it good. But anyway, I'm gushing over.
Zack, though, to your point, it has to be something that you hire for and you also are strong enough to fire for, because unless you are a huge organization, and frankly, even if you are a huge organization, someone who does not align with your values creates poison. Whether it is poison on their immediate team, poison with just undercutting things, rolling their eyes at the wrong moment, the comments that get made, and what gets demonstrated to your clients. So really looking at that assessment of, do you have the skills and the talent to do the job, is one component. But if the person does not align with the values, no matter how good they are at their job, you are never going to be as successful as somebody who has the GWC that you referred to earlier. Got it, want it, and I'm blanking on the C right this minute.
Capacity
To do it, yes.
I always think back to like my former life when I was an employee, when I had a boss that was not in alignment with my core value, came in out of nowhere, changed a bunch of things, didn't ask us for any of our opinions, had unrealistic expectations. I probably lasted a week and then I was gone. And it was immediate. I knew right away that it wasn't going to be something that fit. And I think you just have to kind of trust your gut sometimes with some of that stuff. Because if I would have tried to stay longer, I'd have just been miserable. And so I think that's maybe something that stuck with me when I was building Pivot, was just, I want to make this a place where people actually want to come and work. And I don't want to micromanage people. I want to give people freedom. And I'll try to guide and mentor as much as possible. But I think that's really what I started looking at when I was trying to build the team. And I just go by my gut a lot of times. Like I always go by the person, not necessarily whether they've got that skill set yet. Because we can always train that. We can always build that up in them. I just think it's always about the person. And if they resonate with you, then they'll be a good fit for your clients too. Because like you said, you're trying to hire clients that are a good fit too. That's a big part of it as well. So
you can train for skills, but someone's got to have the will, the desire, and the alignment. And that's really all. If you think of your employees as brand ambassadors, if you think of brand ambassadors that is going to be internal and brand ambassadors that are going to take your business externally, the more connected they are to your employee value proposition, to your employee brand, the prouder they are to be part of the organization. Research shows that those are the employees who will do more than what is asked, spend more time, try harder to be creative, and will really push the envelope in terms of what they're willing to give and to deliver on behalf of the organization. So really creating this incredible employee experience, your employer brand, both in terms of attracting new hires and retaining your team. Everything from your onboarding, your performance management, your promotional process, your recognition programs, your training and development opportunities that you provide, that day-to-day culture permeates through everything that you do, internally and externally.
Now, for people who are new to the concept of branding and are listening maybe for the first time, or maybe are a long time listener at this point, your core values are part of your brand. Your brand is not your logo. Your logo is part of it. It's just there to help you be recognized, remembered, and shared. But truly, your brand is the promise that you keep. And it's got to be, that's why these rules have to be immutable laws, because they're promises you're making. And if you don't keep those promises, then you break trust. And that's the only currency anyone really works in, is trust. Because you could pay somebody 10 times what they're worth. And if they don't trust you, they're not going to stay around. They don't trust that you're going to advocate for them. Or like you were saying before, Rachel, about if there's a certain core value that they're demonstrating as not being exemplified, or if something's going on, they're like, oh, well, what happens if that happens to me?
Yeah.
Is this how I'm going to be treated? Is this how it's going to be for me? And that loses faith. And that starts being that poison you were talking about.
Yeah. I'm going to disagree with you on one thing, which is
Sure.
if you pay someone 10 times more or whatever times more, they're going to stick around for a period of time, but they're not going to help you to be as successful as you could potentially be with someone who was making 10 times less, but is more aligned with the why, the purpose of your organization, and how you're going to get work done. It's just as simple as that.
That's a good point. And I guess what I really meant is that you can't buy trust.
Yeah,
You can buy my time, but you're right. You're right.
You could hang on to them for a little longer, but not for the good. Just hanging on to somebody is not necessarily a success metric for us.
I know a lot of small businesses, I feel like sometimes feel like this is out of grasp. They feel like building this culture is something that only big companies do. Is there some tips and tricks that you can say for small, it could even be 1-2 person companies that are out there that are looking to sort of start this journey? Any tips for them to build a good culture?
This is not actually something that you need to spend a tremendous amount of money on. I think that there are opportunities to take whatever your external brand is and position it, reposition it internally, because there should be some alignment. Let's be very clear. There should be some alignment. And really thinking about how you're communicating it, embedding it in other employee initiatives that you are likely doing anyway, making it a topic of conversation, even if it's just between you and one other employee, about what did we do? How did we demonstrate this? Because your ability to tell your own stories, to create the story of who you are when you're 2 people, you need to be able to tell that story and your history and how you got to where you are when you're 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people or 10,000 people. So embedding your employer value proposition, embedding what you want your core values to be in all of your other employee facing programs, and celebrating your wins and celebrating when someone demonstrates something, making it a positive example of them is the way to create more. You know, one of the things that we talk about in employee engagement, frankly, and in parenting, is you can correct a child or an employee, give them feedback that this is what you expect, and they will listen and they will try. But catching them doing the right thing and celebrating that that is something that people remember because they want more praise. They want to feel like they're part of something bigger. And so, to the extent that you have the opportunity, and that doesn't cost you anything other than having your eyes open and communicating either one on one or in a group setting, it is an easy way to do it. I have an old boss. We work for a Fortune 500 organization. He used to handwrite thank you notes to say, I saw you doing this and it was terrific. And I really appreciate it. And our clients appreciate it, whatever the exact circumstance was. I probably have had my small stack of thank you notes. I don't want to say how many years, but it's a lot. We're talking decades because it meant something, because it was genuine, because it was authentic.
Mm-hmm. So I have a big question for you. Are you ready for this? What do you think is the biggest mistake companies make in HR, especially in culture?
You need to be clear about the difference between your aspirations for your culture and what your culture actually is. Because if you're constantly talking about our culture or our values are X, but that's not what's happening on the ground, you lose trust. But if you're talking about here's where we are, and here's where I would like to go as a leader, and here's how I think we can get there together, and here's what I'm going to do, and here's what you're going to do, that's how you collaborate. That's how you build something, whatever expression, metaphor you want to use. That's how you build something. That's how you climb the mountain together. Don't tell a group of employees what something is that they know is not true. That's the biggest mistake, I think, when it comes to culture.
Like if you say something, but they continuously see you do the opposite.
Or everyone do the opposite and not be told that that's not acceptable behavior. That is not winning. That's not a winning approach to culture.
What's your suggestion for just even building those core values? Like, do you think that's something that you want to include the team on? Are you going to be bringing that to the team? What in your opinion is the best way to do that?
In my experience, this is not an individual activity, but it also is not a vote. It's not a democracy. It's not you need to work with a small group that are willing to have some tough conversations and willing to compromise and discuss and really be future thinking. And you definitely want to get feedback from a slightly broader group because you don't want somebody looking at it again, back to that whole aspirational versus reality. You definitely want to get feedback, but it's really important that your leadership team is going to get behind what your core values are.
Great. Now, how does this apply to, because we talked a lot about core values, and I know we're getting close to our 30 minutes, but how does this apply to vision and mission as well, and purpose? Core values, they're immutable. Vision and mission can change over time if you've achieved the vision. It obviously has to change. But to me, purpose and core values have to stay immutable. Like if you lose your purpose and you lose your core values, the rest of it doesn't matter.
I mean, I think you just answered actually your own question. It's the exact answer that I was going to give you, which is you need to be discussing these things. But a great leader is someone, it doesn't matter what the cadence is. It can be quarterly, it can be monthly, it can be weekly, it can be, semi-annually. It doesn't actually matter. But taking the time to remind everyone of what an organization holds dear and where you have made changes based upon for any number of reasons, and being honest and transparent about that and reminding people of what your mission is, what your purpose is, what your values are, what your why is, you can never go wrong by repeating it. Let's just think back to, some of the studies that are out there. People need to hear things a minimum of 7 times. What you hear, what you read, what you see, you only remember certain percentages of it. People think and feel with all 5 of their senses. So you've got to find ways to really help people understand what it is that you're all about and what it is that you're going after, and however and whenever you can remind them of that, it is going to pay dividends in creating the employee culture that you want, and ultimately the brand that you want out to the external world and your clients and customers.
It's true, because if you have a brand that people in the external world get behind, but your internal world is not happening, you want those people to be in line with the brand. You want those people to be answering the phone because they're so lit up by what you're doing, because it lights them up. And that's going to come through no matter what they do. Whether, it doesn't matter what job they're doing, whether they're cleaning, they're answering phones, they're at the highest level of the C-suite. It doesn't matter. If they align with those values, it's gonna be sticky. But this has been a fantastic conversation. But I know that there's also something that you wanted to offer the audience. It was the performance discussion guide. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And we can leave it in the show notes so they can get it for free.
Sure, absolutely. So, while it's not specific to employee branding, I'm a huge believer that you've got to give people feedback. You've got to do it in a timely way, and you've got to give them meaningful, actionable feedback. And in particular, in a way that ties to this, if somebody is not behaving in a way that is aligned with your core values, you got to bring it up. You got to talk about it. You've got to set those expectations. And people shy away from giving feedback. So this is just a quick best practices tip sheet for how to prepare yourself as a supervisor to give feedback on any topic. And it could be positive feedback. Let's not discount giving somebody positive feedback. I'm a huge proponent, but really to prepare yourself to be able to give meaningful and timely and actionable feedback. It's my top best tips and tricks to be an incredible people leader.
Fantastic. So we'll put that in the show notes. And what's the best way for people to contact you if they need help with their HR?
Absolutely. Reach out. My website is plattinumconsulting.com. Platinum has 2 T's. You can think of it as the second T is for talent, or kind of like how I spell my last name. Certainly email rplatt@Plattinum Consulting, or I actually give out my phone number and you can just text me 301-807-4334.
All right, that might have sealed your fate right there, because you never know. This could be the most famous, popular podcast on the internet, and now you're going to be inundated with calls. But hopefully, we can always, let's hope. Well, again, thank you so much for your time and for guesting on our show today, Rachel. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you and learn more about the HR process and how to do it right. And I think that you've given a lot of great resources for our audience. So we're just going to wrap it up. Tune in next week where we chop up brands to see what they're made of.
See you guys.
Brand Chops is brought to you by the fine people at Pivot Creative. Pivot Creative is a full-service branding and marketing agency that partners with businesses to build brands that connect so that every dollar you spend is an investment and not an expense. If you need some branding or marketing guidance, a website, a new brand, or want to learn more about one of the topics we cover on the show, please reach out to us at pivotcreative.com. If you know someone that would benefit from learning more from one of our shows, please share the episode. Visit brand-chops.com. And as always, like and subscribe if you find this content to be helpful. See you next time on Brand Chops, where we chop up brands to see what they're made of.